Hello there. We divided this best of episode into 3 parts, so I apologize for the abrupt breaks, but you will be inspired by Lindy's story. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Podcast, where we blend the spiritual with the practical for supernatural results. Now, here is your host, Bralynn Newby.
All done. And so basically what happened was the landlord, he said, if you can sign the lease in 1 month, I'll give you a third off the rent. So because we had all our ducks in a row, we got the property for the same rental as the previous one was going to be without having to spend any money on a refurb. And so we moved into the building.
Wow.
Cool. At that point in time, I'd started to have meetings in my house, and I had about 60 people meeting in my house once a week. And so in my mind, I was thinking, well, this will be amazing because we won't have to meet in my house anymore. We'll have a building that we can meet in. And so I was very excited, and I said to everybody coming, listen, this is what's happening. This is what the Lord's doing. He's opening a door. We're going to sign a lease on this building, and I'm going to go down there, and I'm going to be down there 5 days a week, because that's what I felt like he said he wanted me to do, was 5 days a week. So by this point in time, I'd already given him 4 days a week that I was doing all sorts of stuff. So this was like my extra day where I was going to go in, and this was my last day I was giving him to be full-time in ministry.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, okay, I'm going to be down there 5 days a week. And, who wants to join me? Who wants to kind of sow into whatever God is doing? So the question came up, well, what is he doing? Well, I hadn't even thought about asking him that, because actually it doesn't matter. I'm just going along for the ride. So I said, okay, well, why don't we all go in the Spirit and ask him, what is he asking us to do? So that's what we did. And one of the ladies, she put it so succinctly. She said, I feel like the Father was asking us to waste time on him.
Wow.
And I just knew that was it. We were going to go down there. We were going to drink coffee. We were going to worship. We were going to just sit around with him and see what he did. So it was so fascinating, because you would have thought from a team of 60 people, there'd be some people who, I wasn't asking everyone to go full time. I was just saying, give 1 day a week. Do you want to give 1 day a week into what God is doing? And suddenly, well, I'm far too busy. I can't. You're just going to sit around and drink coffee. I'm a busy person. I can't do that. So we ended up with a team of 10. So there were 2 of us that actually ended up full time. And then there were others that came 1 day a week. And we had an amazing time, where the Lord would just bring people through the door. We had one day he told us to invite all the neighbors in for coffee. So, we're the new kid on the block. We're on an industrial estate. So they're all, working silly hours to produce something to pay the rent. So they all come through the door. I did coffee and cakes and whatever. And, so they staggered it. So different people came at different times, and I had conversations with all of them, and they all said the same thing. So what do you do here? So we said, well, actually, we're not exactly sure what we're doing here at the moment. We're a Christian ministry. We're here for the community. We're waiting to see, how the Father's going to open things up for us. And they all said, well, how do you pay the rent? I said, well, when we need the rent to be paid, he puts money in the bank account, and then we pay the rent. That's how we do things, and I mean, they think
Totally blew their mind, right?
And it totally blew their mind.
So just to clarify, all this whole while you're quote unquote wasting time with him, your property business he's running that?
Mm-hmm.
That's you're blowing my mind right now. Oh Oh my goodness.
It is so easy when you take him at his word. Or actually, it's not easy. It's so simple. It's not easy, but it's so simple.
I would imagine for me, I know I would be antsy. You know, it wouldn't be easy for me to just do nothing. I would be like,
It's not easy for
I just
anybody.
need to check in on XYZ, you know, just let me.
Well, because the thing is, we're still wanting to be in control.
I know.
See?
Yes.
And as soon as we take control, he lets go.
Mm.
And we take control because we think he's not doing anything, but he's just doing it differently.
Oh, another quotable. We take control because we think he's not doing anything, but actually he's just doing things differently. Amazing. That's so true.
So we've got a plan of how it should look. And when it doesn't start to fall into place, we think, well, nothing's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, he's the God who he stacks it all up. And then he just releases the domino effect and bang, 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 it all comes into place. But whilst he's stacking it all up, we're looking at it and thinking, nothing's happening, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. And that's when we make a complete mess of it, because then we take the reins. Then what happens is we trample all over the dominoes. We destroy everything he's set up. And then we give it back to him. And he's got to start all over again. On one occasion, he said to me, no, actually, I'm not picking up the pieces this time. You can pick up the pieces of all the mess that you've made. Now, let me show you the mess that you've made.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
Wow.
So my whole journey has been a journey of how to learn to trust him, how to just walk with him. And it does, the more you do it, the more easy it becomes.
Wow.
Because at the end of the day, he's got a plan. It is his, Marketplace Ministries is not my ministry. It's his. I never planned it. I never set out to establish it. And everything that I walk in is just him. So, the fact that I'm now doing lindystrong.com and going into the corporate world was because last year he said, it's time for you to get back into the corporate world because they need the tools that I've given you. So now I'm going into the corporate world.
Oh, go ahead.
And he's told me, and up until fairly recently, everything that we did for nothing. And he funded it. He would just put money in the bank account, and we would just feed the homeless, pay the rent, run whatever things he was wanting us to do inner healing for whoever came along, And we had people coming from all over the place, and we would minister to them. And now he's saying, now it's time for you to actually, I want you to stop doing everything for nothing. There's some things I want you to do for nothing, but actually people need to really start to value what you're doing. So now I don't do anything for nothing anymore. And the price tag we put on everything is the price tag he's stipulated. So I really function in that. And the interesting thing is that what's happening now is that the money's coming through the bank, and we're utilizing the money to buy the various technology, the various machines that we need for the clinic. Because, I've also started an intuitive energy healing clinic, which is a whole other ball game. But that
We have to talk about that after the break. One more thing. I just have this question because I see a spiritual principle that you put into place, but I want to know, do I have it wrong? You had, on the first property that you were looking at, you had put all of your ducks in a row. You were totally prepared for what needed to be done in the natural, how the money needed to be spent, how you needed to bring on the contractors to do what, when, where, how you wanted it, the blueprints drawn, whatever. You had all of that laid out. And because you were fully prepared, you were able to then get the second property at the third off, which made it the same.
Yes. Okay.
So that is a principle,
Yes.
being prepared.
Absolutely, it's a principle. But equally, you need to be prepared to lay down all your preparation, because that's what we did. We had prepared everything for building one.
Right.
Now, most people would fight for building one because they don't know how to go to the Father and say, am I supposed to fight for this? Or did you lay this down? See, when we start to live in his slipstream, it's easy because he's already gone ahead and he's done it. But then what happens is we step out of his slipstream, we rush ahead and we go, okay, so clearly this is what you said. And he's like, yeah, I said that 14 conversations ago. Haven't you been listening?
Wow.
So when we learn how to just go with the flow of what he's doing, life is so simple. Because actually, so he gave me a picture one day of me with a little plastic yellow hammer. And he was constructing this beautiful mansion. And I was just going around after him with my little yellow hammer and, knocking on the walls and, really doing very little. But at the end of the day, he said to me, look what we've done.
Oh.
Because he wants to share. Jesus says, I've given them the glory that you gave me. He wants to share the glory with us when we will give him all the glory. It's so simple. I keep saying to people, if you will just hang out with him, he makes you look good all the time. Because I go into meetings, I have no idea what I'm going to say. I go into governmental places where they're seeking my counsel, and I'm going in there thinking, I have not one qualification. I have nothing that actually means that I have any right to sit at this table. And most of the time, I don't even understand, what the issues are, because it's at governmental level. I don't have all the ins and outs and what's happening, and I'll sit there and listen, and then he'll drop something in my spirit, and I'll speak it out, and they'll all look at me like I've just said the most miraculous thing. And I'm like, well, I'm not, in the beginning I was like, oh my goodness, did I just say the wrong thing? Because I didn't know how to read the fact that if I will just follow him, he will because that's all he's looking for. He's looking for us to be his mouthpieces in the earth. He's looking for us to just walk in those small steps of obedience that will establish on earth as it is in heaven. But we need to lay down our agendas and our plans and our hopes and our dreams. But if we get to work with him for his hopes and his dreams and his agendas, which are always far bigger, far more exciting, and far more fulfilling than anything we could hope to establish in the earth.
Wow. That is so good. You know what? That I wanna jump to a break. We must be at break time because my first page is totally full of notes. And that was a great place to stop. And when we come back, I know, you're just amazing. When we come back, I want to talk about the clinic
Sure.
that you are you just started, right? Recently, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then also kind of what you're going to be teaching in the academy. That is going to be so exciting. So let's just see if I can click the right button here, and we will be right back.
Spirit-centered business, spiritual principles, and business principles combined. If you're ready to align your destiny and discover the destiny of your business, join us. We are entrepreneurs, leaders, and business professionals who take the power of the spirit realm in our business seriously. We go beyond just consuming information. We participate, activate, and engage the supernatural with unbelievable results. If you want to gather with like-minded business professionals to activate spiritual principles and mastermind creative solutions to business challenges, Spirit-Centered Business is your tribe. Go to spiritcenteredbusiness.com to become a member today.
We are back. And I was just telling Lindy during the break, I'm so enthralled. I really am. That's the word. Like, oh my gosh, I need to be able to do this. I need to be able to press in and actually trust that he will handle everything, and really just take my hands off the reins and press into him. And I need to develop that muscle. I really need to get into the gym and work out that spiritual muscle because I do like to control things. So how long was it, if we could just finish that conversation, how long was it when you moved? You gave him 1 day.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get to?
It probably took me about 5 years to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I feel a little bit better because I was thinking I could not do that in a month.
Yeah, no. It took me about 5 years. So the first thing I did was I was the treasurer for the church. So that took 1 day a week. Then from there, he asked me if I'd open up a free debt advice service because my background was finance. And there's so many people in debt. And then they have to pay somebody to help them get out of debt. So he asked me if I would open up a free debt advice center. So that was 1 day a week and 1 night a week. I did that. And then what started to happen was people were starting to recognize that there was something going on in my life. And so they'd say to me, could you teach me how to go in the spirit realm and see and whatever? And I said, look, I don't know how to teach you this. So I went to the Father. He said, what you need to do is invite them round. You go and do what you do, and it will open a way for them to be able to do. So that's really taught me how to function when I do teaching, because it's taught me that it's not good enough for me just to give you information. What I need to do is I need to go in the spirit realm and I need to open it up so that you can get up there and you can see for yourself. So when I do my activations, I'm not just saying, okay, so now you're going to do this. When I'm doing my activations, I'm partnering with that, because what I'm doing is I'm going in the spirit and I'm opening up the way so that you can actually engage with it too. So so that became another day. And then the 4th day was a day in the market. And so then I was up to 4 days a week. And then when he said, okay, we're going to open you're going to have this building. It's like, okay, so that's 5 days a week. So currently how our schedule is, we actually only open the building 4 days a week. Because we're often away ministering at weekends. So Monday is actually our day off. So we're open Tuesday to Friday, then we're often away at the weekends. You know, a team is somewhere at the weekends. So that's how it all came about.
So how often do you work at your property management?
Well, what's really fantastic now is that I've now, the property portfolio brings up in enough money now for me to actually employ somebody else. So 2 days, she comes in about 2 days a month. And so all I'm doing is I'm doing all the top level stuff and she's doing all the paperwork stuff. So.
And it still functions at the same capacity that it did when you were doing full time?
It's the thing about building a property portfolio is that at some point in time, it actually starts to look after itself, in the context of when you're first building it, you're having to do all the paperwork with refunding and remortgaging so that you can get money out so you can buy the next one, and you're jiggling things around all the time. But at some point in time, when you go, okay, this is enough. Because that's the other thing, we have to get to a place of understanding where is enough. And the purpose of the portfolio for me was always only to generate an income, so that actually I don't have to worry about money. I can press into him. But actually, what's happened is that as part of the process, he taught me how to press into him. So now I don't worry about money, which is a bit different, you know.
Well,
but the whole way in which I run the ministry is from a place of faith. So we just trust when we need anything. And actually, so 2007 we moved in. Up until 2019, every quarter when the rent was due, we'd have to position ourselves to pull the money in. And now at the beginning of 2019, he said, so it took 12 years. And then at the beginning of 2019, he said, okay, I'm going to open up multiple streams of income. I'm going to tell you how to manage it all. And the thing is, Bralynn, it's not like I didn't know how to make it happen. I could have made it happen. I could have stepped into the ministry, created something that was going to create money. You know, that's what I did. But I had to choose not to, because I knew that if I chose to go my route, there would always be a limit to what I could do. And that limit would be based on what I can do. If I choose to go with him, we become limitless, because there's no end to the limit. You know, there's no limit to him. So if we're prepared to just lay down our agendas and trust him, what it does mean is that the road becomes tricky sometimes, because, you know, so when he started to talk to me about opening up a clinic where people were going to come from all over the world to be healed, I did not think I was going to have 2 cancer journeys to teach me that what I need. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Wow, I totally forgot about that. That's right. Oh my goodness. We didn't talk about that. Holy schmoly, girlfriend, we're going to be here all day.
Yeah, but you see, it's all good. When you understand that, when you live in that place, you can walk into a cancer diagnosis and go, you've got this, Father. This is a training ground. You're going to teach me things. I'm going to learn what you're going to teach me. You're going to hold my hand, and it's going to be okay. It's not going to be a fun journey. This is not going to be a walk in the park. I understand that. But I totally know you've got this.
Wow. Twice.
So
when was the first one?
2014. And that was the conventional route of what was that? Surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and then I ended up in hospital with double pneumonia. And that was just, it was fabulous. Literally, it was. I mean, the chemotherapy wasn't, but what he taught me was fabulous.
Okay, good clarification there.
He gave me an authority over stuff that, yeah, it was amazing. So then my second cancer journey is, so my first cancer journey was really about teaching me how the pharmaceutical industry works. Because up until that point in time, I wasn't sick. I never got ill. See? Wow. So I never went to the doctor. So I never had to understand how all of that stuff works. So my first cancer journey was about introducing me to the pharmaceutical industry, how they function, how they work, and he took me in the spirit realm and showed me stuff to do with that. So when I came out of that journey, I already knew that my life was changed such that I had to look at other alternatives. I had to look outside of what we consider to be the solution. Right. And so he opened up opportunities for me to go in the spirit, and he took me back in time, and he showed me how not medicine, but how healing used to work, you know, before.
Okay, wow. That we're gonna just have to do a whole different show for that, because that is fascinating. I'm totally on board with learning how all of that works, and I'm learning more and more how evil the pharmaceutical stuff is. So let's table that for another show and come back to the potential maximizing and what you're doing in your current clinic.
Okay, so those are not the same things. Okay, so the clinic is actually a healing clinic, and the healing clinic is around around my journeys for healing in the physical body.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's save that one for a different show and just go into
let's
the
go back
potential
to
maximizing.
yeah. Okay.
We'll just wet the whistle of those who want to hear about that, because it is fascinating.
Okay. So potential maximizing. How potential maximizing was born. Potential maximizing was born. I have been working, so I mentioned that I've been working with people for years. So people would come to the ministry, and it started with deliverance, going back many, many years. Started with deliverance, then started with him teaching me inner healing tools and actually, can I just say that it always starts at home, and I was a mess. I was a very, very broken, very, very messy individual. And so he started by giving me tools for my own inner healing journey. And then he walked me through inner healing. And he is so incredibly gracious, because every time I got stuck, and I knew where the problem was. So let me explain to you when I say what that looked like. What that looked like was I made a decision. See, I'm a very simplistic girl. If the Bible says I can have something and I don't have it, then I want to know why. Okay? So I haven't always been like that. I used to be a pick and mix girl, where I would read the Bible and I'd pick out the bits that really worked for me. And then I would leave the bits that actually only pertain to the super spiritual, because that wasn't me. And so therefore I was exempt from that clause. Okay, so for instance, the forgiveness clause. I didn't have to forgive, because obviously the stuff that happened in my life was unforgivable, and the Lord, if the Lord was actually writing about my life, he would give me an exemption. Was kind of where I lived for a long time. And then he would send people across my path. I'd go visiting churches or go here, go there. People would come and say, I just have one word for you: forgiveness. So he never let me run. Because he knows my heart of passion for him, it was like he never let me go. He would hound me and hound me. So I spent 12 years in the wilderness of unforgiveness, because I wouldn't forgive. Anyway, so the beginning of my healing journey was beginning to forgive. And the day I made a decision, okay, I'm going to do this, I went and I bought as many tissue boxes as I could get, because I knew that it was going to be a snotty journey. And for about 3 or 4 weeks, I just cried every single day. And I just said to the Lord, okay, let's look at this area of my life. Let's look at this area of my life. Because I had basically just closed down everything. Okay? That was my protection mechanism. I was closed down everything. So my first part of my healing journey was around forgiveness. And when I got stuck, he would send somebody who knew how to help me navigate my stuckness. And so then they would help, they'd pray with me, and they'd bring some words of wisdom, which would give me keys. And so I'd carry on with my journey. But what happened when I really started to move into the fullness was I decided that I was going to look at every single response that I had in my life that didn't look like Jesus. Okay? And what I absolutely knew was that every single response had a trigger. And I lived in a place of constant simmer. So what that means is there was so much anger inside of me that I lived in a place where I was just able to keep a lid on it. But if anything small could trigger it, and I would explode like it was the end of the world. Wow. So I've had to really, my son and I have done some work together because he took the brunt of it. By the time my daughter got to an age, I'd already walked probably 75% of my inner healing journey. But my son and I are very close, but I have had to apologize over and over and over and over to him for all sorts of things,
Wow.
So I made the decision that I was going to look at every trigger, and I still live in that place. Okay, because until such time as we look like Jesus, there's still work to be done. Until such time as we function like Jesus, there's still work to be done. So every time something happened that triggered something inside of me, I would stop and I'd say to the Father, okay, let's work on that. Why did I feel like that? Why did I say that? What was the root issue that is there? Okay, so my inner healing journey has been since 2000. So I've been on a 20-year inner healing journey, and I'm nowhere near looking like Jesus yet.
Well, I apologize again for that abrupt break, but join us next week for the continuation of Lindy's story. Until then, stay spirit-centered. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Centered Business with Bralynn Newby. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The next stage of doing business by being spirit-centered is coming together in collaboration, working with spiritual principles and knowing our destiny. Join our tribe at spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace out.